Well, this is just wonderful. So thank you all for coming. This is the second time I've done this program. I did it back in February. Was anybody there? It was an evening program that I did for both the art club and the general membership. And things started happening organically in that people were bringing paintings and pictures and etchings from the community. One woman came and said, I have Cora Bliss Taylor painting in my living room. Would you like me to bring it? And I said, well, we're starting in 20 minutes. She said, I'm just across the street or somewhere. So she brings in this painting like this, which I thought was fabulous and a special thing that might never happen again, but guess what? You probably saw it happening this morning. So we got some paintings and some etchings, paintings from the Cora Bliss Taylor School, and some etchings that just arrived. Can you please remind me of your name? Bonnie and Heather, right? Brought them, and I guess that was it, others. So we have lots of artwork to look at for the artists that I'm going to introduce you to today, coming just right from the community. Also, I feel like I have like all kinds of VIPs in the room here. So first of all, who's a visitor? Okay, so you're all the homegrowns, and that's wonderful. It is a pretty specific, like as a visitor, you might not have the same feeling that the people from town have, because they knew both of the people that I'm going to be introducing you to today. So, and who was actually in Cora Bliss Taylor's art school. Okay, so we have, come on, raise your hand higher. So we've got like 4 people or so, which is fantastic. Living history stories, thank you. And then who was acquainted with Nathaniel P. Steinberg? Okay, so 2. Oh, Ted, you knew him too. Okay, all right. So I'm going to be telling you about these 2 people from what I have learned, and I really want to give a fantastic plug to the History Center, to the archives, and to the wonderful databases that we have created, especially with the help of Sally Winters, and my husband and I had some to do with it. So most of my research that I have, that I'm going to show you, that I found right here from our Catalog It database and from our archives. So it's just fantastic. If you have questions about the history of the town that you live in, or someone you know lived here in Saugatuck-Douglas, this is the place to come. So, and all of the artwork belongs to the History Center as well, except for the, don't worry, we won't keep the ones that we brought. So I feel like these 2 people, Cora Bliss Taylor and Nat, I'm gonna call him Nat, which I guess his friends called him. I feel like they're my friends now. I told Eric that I feel like I know more about them than I do some of my relatives, which I think I do. So originally, I was asked to do this presentation by Annie Hayes from the art club. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And then when I got started, I thought, why am I doing 2 artists? Why am I doing both Cora Bliss Taylor and Nat Steinberg? Could I just please do one? I volunteered to do a presentation, but as I continued my research, I found that their lives, their trajectories of their lives, even though they came from opposite ends of the globe, actually, came together. And not only did it come together, but it came together here and benefited this community, the Saugatuck-Douglas community. So it was just so much fun to learn about, and I'm happy to share it with you. So just as an introductory screen here, you can see some pictures of our beloved Cora, who always wore the great big hat and a flowery dress. So I decided to put a dress on today, but I left the hat at home. She was born in 1889 and lived on this earth with us until 1986. So she was 97 years old. And then Nat Steinberg is on the other side there, born 1893. So you can see they are contemporaries, just born 6 years apart. And he passed away in 1976. So this is what I would like to do today. Here's my agenda. I want to introduce both of these people to you and just have a sketch of their lives. How much can I do in an hour? So set the stage of what it was like to be alive at the time that they were alive, and why did their artwork look like it did. To be able to set that stage, I'm going to give you all a really quick history lesson, maybe 5 minutes or so. I'll go quickly through it. And I want to tell you just quickly about the 7 decades that I'm going to cover of their lives, and believe me, it'll be quick. What happened in the world, what was happening in the US, and most importantly, because this is our art talk, what was happening in the world of art. So I'm telling you this because I want you to see the effects of all of that, or maybe not the effects, in the artworks that we have here today. And how were they involved in the Saugatuck-Douglas Art Club specifically? So, couple questions for you to think about. What was the world like for both of them? Both being born in the 1900s, which the more I learn about the 1900s, which is really the time, maybe my grandparents were born just before and my parents born in the 1920s, and a time I really never thought about. I thought it was the old days. But it was a time of great change, and maybe we'll go over that just really, really quickly. So set the stage, how did the world events, US events affect these artists? And something for you to think about, how does history shape artistic change? How do events in history shape artistic change, and specifically these artists? And is a town like ours affected? Or do we stay isolated from these things? So here they are once again, Cora living till 97, Nat till 83. And let's jump in. So I'm going to just do this really quickly, decade by decade. So think about it. If you think, oh, they were born right before the 1900s, so you can add their ages. So here they are from birth to about age 20. What was going on in the world? Industrialization, World War I, Russian Revolution, okay? I probably could have passed a test and said that that was what was happening. In the US, progressive era and getting ready for World War I. But the world of art is what surprised me. So you're probably all familiar with the terms Art Nouveau, Fauvism, Cubism, okay? But do you think of it as existing in the early 1900s? I didn't necessarily. Do you or do you not? Maybe never really thought about it, right? Yeah, pardon?
In certain parts of the world, maybe not in Saugatuck-Douglas.
Right, okay, so that's good. You're thinking along the lines that I want you to. My favorite is Fauvism because it means wild beasts. So the picture of the woman with the dark hair and the red dress is an example of one of Henri Matisse's paintings of Fauvism, meaning like strong, bright colors and rough brush strokes, sort of the antithesis we'd think of as of Impressionism, because we all know what Impressionism is, but the Fauvism is just kind of a wild, darker, brighter version. And then, of course, everybody seems familiar with Cubism. You probably can't read the name under there, but who do you think did that work there? Okay, so Picasso. Okay, simple geometric shapes put together. That's the first decade of their lives. The 20 to 1929, what's happening there? Well, World War I is over and there's rebuilding and there's the rise of mass culture. Now, I never really thought about that either. So how do you think mass culture was shared at this time, early 1920, 1929, mostly with the invention of the radio? Okay, so we could think of the film clips of people listening to, Churchill on the radio and that. So the rise of mass culture in the US, the Roaring '20s, and of course the stock market crash. But the world of art, what was going on there? So to me, this looks very almost mid-century modern, but it's much earlier than that. So the top picture with the triangles and the squares, that's called Bauhaus, and that's really more functionalism, simplicity, just vibrant, basic colors. That was really going on in Germany. It was more than painting too. It affects furniture, woodworking, things like that. Then of course the melted clocks is Surrealism, and we all know who does the melted clocks, right? So Dali, and that's kind of the, what have I got a definition here, the juxtaposition of different images, okay? And it's very Freudian and kind of hard to accept, especially in the 1920s when you think of what the world was like then. And then this last one, I had to put this in because it's called de style, which is a Dutch term, and I had to do that for my Dutch friends, especially that one in the back there. So it's also primary colors, straight lines. They're all kind of happening in the same time. Think about Cora and Nat, and they are in their 30s, 20s and 30s, okay? 1930 to 39, the Great Depression, the rise of fascism. History sometimes repeats itself. In the United States, the New Deal, the WPA, Workers' Progress, and how does that affect art? And this, I think, is a really exciting time. And this is something that's actually local for all of us. So the art at that time was called social realism, and so many public murals were painted. You've probably seen them in post offices. And has anyone here been to the Detroit Institute of Art? So this is a picture from Diego Rivera, and this artwork I found was considered to be one of the most complex artworks devoted to modern industry. So done in the 1930s, and it was a political commentary. It was very controversial at the time, and he took the modern worker and the everyday man and woman and made them heroic. And there are 27 parts to these murals at the Detroit Institute of Art. So Nat and Cora are in their, starting to be in their 40s, their early 40s at this time with these influences. We're just about there to modern time. 40s to 50s, probably most of you were around at that time, I would think. Well, okay, not you, but everybody else. So World War II. Okay, we've already gone through one war, now we're back into another war, and the Cold War begins. Okay, we had Pearl Harbor happening in the US. The US becomes a global supplier, and then we, I think I'll skip that last one. Going back to art, the movements in art, abstract expressionism. Do you remember that? Like you take a glop of paint and go, you know, and spraying, they would spray things. Okay, so this is in the 40s and 50s. Again, I think of these as much more modern than when they occurred, but it takes a while for it to come down, I guess, to mass culture. So it is said that the abstract expressionism was one of the first American art movements to achieve global influence. So I think in the past we were influenced by the other advances in art, but this was influencing artists globally. We're in the 60s now, and so are Cora and Nat. They're getting older, and there's the protest movements, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Anybody remember that going on? Pretty scary stuff. And civil rights movement, Vietnam War, all of that happening in the US. And so what was going on in art? Pop art, okay, and minimalism, and critique of consumer culture. And I bet you all remember the Andy Warhol soup cans, and that's one of his pictures in front. Also, minimalism is still happening today. Can anybody think of how it's happening? Think about, I guess her name is Marie Kondo, and trying to be minimalist. You hold it, does it give you pleasure? If it doesn't give you pleasure, get rid of it. Clean out your house, whatever, lead a minimalist lifestyle. I think maybe we'll see some of that, Eric, maybe next week when we see the mid-century modern, because I think of that as somewhat minimalist as well. So back to Cora and Nat, they're getting older, they're in their 60s, maybe close to 70s, but they're still painting and working, okay? Our last decade we're gonna cover is the 70s to the 76, 80, There's the oil crisis, the environmental movement going on in the world, US Watergate, okay, and the Vietnam War finally ends in 1975. A couple of the big movements would be land art. So land art is actually using things from, using natural materials and making art outside, and the picture on the top gives you an example of that. And another movement is the Feminist Art Movement. We're going to end with that. And what was that about? Well, it was the women artists were challenging male dominance in art. And sorry, but it's a fact. Especially up until this time, art was done primarily by men. So women were coming and even like a woman's body painting from a woman's perspective rather than from the male gaze, etc. So this picture here, I'm going to show you a little bit bigger picture of it here. What does it look like to you? It looks like the Last Supper, right? But it's not. Every figure here is an important woman artist in the time, and a couple of them. So it's Georgia O'Keeffe is in the middle playing Jesus, and some of the important women artists that were included are Yoko Ono, Alma Thomas, Alice Neal, etc. So we could probably do a whole talk on this picture right here, okay. But by doing that, I set the stage. So hopefully I haven't gone on too long. We've just done 70 years of world and art history, and we're ready to go, okay. So here are our two people that I feel like are my friends, and here's kind of a comparison and contrast of their lives. So another look at when they were born, Cora in 1889, Nat in 1893. And Cora was born in Cincinnati, and Nat was born in Jerusalem. So they were truly born in opposite ends of the globe and came from very different backgrounds, but they were artists through and through, and their lives converged here, and I will tell you how. So for Cora, she first came to Saugatuck on her honeymoon in 1914, and then she came back about 20 so years later, and when she came back, she was already married to an attorney whose name was James Taylor, not the same one, and they spent their honeymoon here in Saugatuck, and then they came back and they brought their family with them. They had 3 daughters, and she was a well-known and well-loved art teacher for 50 years. Okay, so then at this point, if you wouldn't mind one more time raising your hand, if she was your teacher or your daughter or whatever's teacher. So we actually have people here who really got to know her. I don't know if anybody wants to share a very, very quick impression of Cora.
Hi, just a second.
Yes.
I lived at a dead end on Mason Street, and her home was on Mason Street, and she always had the children there. And the most fun was walking down the street when the kids weren't there. Then you could talk to Cora, and she had a rock in her yard, and that's where she mixed all her paints, on the rock.
Really?
It was the most fabulous thing you ever saw, and I don't know whatever happened to it. But
Oh.
it was its own artwork.
I bet it was. Oh, I love that.
She was just she was a great.
There's a lot to read and learn about her right here, both online and like right next door. We have artifacts and things, but I never heard that story, so that's a great story.
I'd like to add to what Peg said.
Yes, please.
I studied with her for at least 10 or 15 years, and she could take a group of, shall we say, rambunctious young people. I was one of them. Shush, Corey. And we would get our supplies in her studio, which was behind the house, and we would go around the town, we would settle down, and we would draw, we would paint, and no one ever fell in the river. It was amazing. And I think she was possibly the best teacher I had way through kindergarten through way through postgraduate school. She was one of those people that you knew she was really interested in you. She took the time to work with you. She was amazing.
So, couldn't have said it better. Thank you so much.
Was there anyone else here? Come on. Come on.
Do you feel the same about Cora? It was a wonderful experience working with her. And we actually have, we'll get into it, we actually, well, maybe this is a good time right now. Vern, you want to hold up a couple of those pictures? These are student pictures that, Heather, did you paint them?
That's the Episcopal Church. All Saints.
So about how old were you when you did this?
7 to 10, I think 3 years.
And look at how she values them. You still have them, they're framed, they're hanging somewhere in your house. So and I think there's one more.
Treasurer, when all the kids would come, she let me be the treasurer in this old
Oh.
purse. And then I'd help her clean the brushes and stuff afterwards. That looked like the Red Barn. No, that's just a group of cottages across the river.
Beautiful. So that's how she inspired kids. Okay, so great information about Cora. Also, she was, as they say, one of the first people who started a clothesline art fair. So, meaning it was her idea to hang the students' work open air on a regular clothesline with clothespins and show them after the week session or however long the session was. So it was in 1953, after one of these art fairs, that Nat Steinberg and Cora Bliss, who knew each other, got together, and Nat suggested that they form an art group. And that was kind of the beginning of, one of the beginnings of the art club in Saugatuck. These fairs, the clothesline art fairs, were held right by the Butler Hotel in the Saugatuck Village Hall. And we talked about having one this year. We didn't get our act together, but maybe next year we'll have a clothesline art fair. But I have had several of them at my house. You could talk to Priscilla if you want to know about that, where I've had, I belong to an art group, and I've had artists come over and we hang up our artwork and we look at it all afternoon and then we take it down and go home. So it's kind of like the land art, right? So these art fairs continue to this day. There's one, the first time I ever heard a clothesline art fair term was for Reed's Lake. Does anybody go to the Reed's Lake art fair? And they called it a clothesline art fair. And I'm like, what is that? But they got the model of that type of art fair from where it was invented, which is here in Saugatuck-Douglas. So, and she was wonderful with her students. A natural teacher, always wore a flowery dress and a great big hat. And I can see in this one, the picture, the black and white one, she has a string of pearls on. And I kind of cropped this picture to fit on this slide. And if I had not cropped it, you would see that painting that's right behind us where Chris, our camera person, is. Leaning against the wall, and I'll talk about that painting in just a second. So think about it though. Did we mention that kind of art when we had our art history lesson a few minutes ago? Okay, possibly, or other, Cubism. Okay, so we mentioned her studio, which was on Mason Street in Saugatuck. And by the way, take as many pictures as you want, but also know that this is going to be on YouTube, so you can watch it over and over, like all winter long. Right, Vern? Right. I have to watch it over and over. Okay, so this is her home and studio. I can make it, I can zoom in a little bit there. Pardon?
I just thought that was Howland Street.
Well,
That's Howland Street, that's not Mason Street.
okay, thank you. We got to fix our catalog, I guess.
I walked by the house, I mean, you know, that, I just didn't,
Okay, but this,
that's the original.
this is gone, as far as I
Oh,
know.
no, that house is there.
Okay, this one is still there, okay.
It's still there.
All right.
It's okay.
Okay, so this is how it was when it was the Taylor Art School, and a lot of the classes were happening outside. And we'll go back in here. We'll take another quick look at it. This is the house in disrepair, and it was demolished in 1984. So anyway, you get the idea. The picture on the left is the fun picture here. Here's a group of adults. So she mostly worked with children, but this is a group of adults. I'm thinking maybe Cora is this person right here, pointing to her, the one that's sitting down at the easel, and they're all painting the woman that's sitting in the chair. But look at the dapper man with the pit helmet and the I don't know what you'd call those pants, jodhpurs or something. So that was her art school going on, and I love this. This is from a pamphlet that advertised her school. When Cora moved to Saugatuck, trying to think, her husband, where was her husband? Her husband, I think he had passed away.
Her husband,
Or were they
shall we say,
divorced?
was not-
He was not there.
yes, he had had some issues,
Okay.
and she decided she was better off without
On
him.
her. So she had to support herself and her children. She had 3 daughters. So this is how she supported herself. And at this time, this was a very daring thing for a woman to do. So this is so much fun to look at. So for her school, they were 5 days a week, except in rainy weather, then you'd be in the studio. And it's open to anyone at any level. So for one day, it costs $1.50. For the whole week, $7, so you got a deal. And for 8 weeks, up to $45. So you could stay in a room for $3 per week, okay, or $5 if there was 2 of you, or a cottage for the whole summer for $50. So those of you staying in cottages. Right, but that didn't include board, meaning food. So if it was board, you would just add about $1 a day. So she advertises that way. And how to get here, this is what I like, how to reach the school. It's on US 31, which actually was not out there at the time. It was right through town. It's on US 31, and it could be reached by the Pere Marquette Railroad, which would stop in Holland, and then you could take the Greyhound or the Indian Trail buses, which will stop right in front of her school. So that's a lot of transportation. And people came from St. Louis. Anyone here from St. Louis? I met some St. Louis people yesterday. Lots from Chicago, of course, because Cora's education started in, her art education started in Chicago. That's another intersection of her and of Nat Steinberg. And then she says the other wonderful things that are happening in Saugatuck, and I think they're all still happening, right? Fishing, tennis, boating, swimming, golf, dancing, hiking. I'm not so sure. Well, horseback riding outside of town anyway. Okay. So that was, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to advertise that then. So she devoted much of her professional life to teaching children. That was her love. She taught adults too, but I'm told anyway, or I learned, that many of the children went on to be artists, like some of our artists here today. And she just loved to give children the chance to express themselves in their classes and in her studio. So she was quite the magical person. The picture of her with the, I guess she has long white collar on both of them, but it would be on your right side, is from the Holland Sentinel, and it says that her real love is giving children a chance to express themselves. And I did read about that Nobody Fell in the River. I read a little story of her that she would march through town like the Pied Piper with everyone behind her, and at that time the big, sorry, now it's just escaped me. What was the big pavilion? Sorry, yep. Because I love the big pool. I was going to say the big pool. The big pavilion was there, and they would all be along the side of the river, painting, running around, and yes, no one ever fell in the river.
As
So
I said, we could be a rather
rambunctious,
yes, but she would settle us down very nicely,
amazing.
and it was fun. She also gave, this would be the end of your costume party.
Yes, so at the end of the year, this is a great picture because people put the names there of the students. Is anyone in this picture? Maybe not here. So, and I can make this a little bigger, sorry. So here's Cora up on the top. There's Cora up there, and her assistant, her helper, who is not named, but everybody else is named. So if you really, really want to see this picture, take a picture of it, you can find it online, you can come here and we can show it to you. If it's not just a digital, it might just be digital. So, but the kids are all dressed up. So at the end of class, you were supposed to come dressed.
It was a costume party.
Yes. So has anybody who's a mom been told, oh, Mom, tomorrow I need a costume? And it's 9 o'clock at night, right? So anyway, it was a bit of a challenge for the moms, but the kids, I guess, had a great...
A couple of them.
Okay.
Okay. So there's a lot of Hutchins, Andy Hutchins. We can come back to it afterwards and look at it more closely. So, but how good that they listed the names. Do that when you...
Ellen Digatano?
So, okay. Just a little article, lots of articles, newspaper articles that we've saved, but a quote from the Commercial Record, written by Kit Lane. Everyone's born, and this is what Cora said, with a capacity for art. Some have more than others, but everybody has something. So.
And she could bring it out.
She could. So let's take a quick look at some of her paintings, and they are right here in this room, which I think is just brings all of this to life. So, but if you want to shout out what kind of art you think this is based on my art lecture for you. So right here in the corner we have an oil painting called Hollyhocks. One thing that Cora did not do, might be my only criticism of her, is she did not put the year on many of her pictures. So we can only guess about the year. Okay, so this would be sort of a impressionistic picture. Right, very good. Okay, here's another one of Cora's. I kind of give it away here, my thoughts, maybe Impressionism, Realism also. We did have an exhibit here called Cody's World in 2019 that focused on her. And that, where are the pink roses? They're over here. So you can come see them more closely. Thank you afterwards. Sorry, I call this one the turkey because it reminds me of a turkey. But think about it. This was 1960. So how old was Cora? Just pretend she was born in 1900. Okay, she was 60 some years old, and she traveled to Denver to learn from Vance Kirkland, and she studied this modern. And so this is one of her seminal works, I guess, of modern. You can come take a look at that. It's huge. Can you imagine painting something that big? And so different, because look at what she's done, okay? So let's move on to Vase of Flowers. Not here in this room, but it's right below us. And how am I doing time-wise? Yikes. It's right below us in the exhibit downstairs. And the first time I saw this painting, it was hanging right here on this wall. I was in some kind of a meeting, and I don't know what happened in the meeting. All I did was stare at the painting. I loved it. It spoke to me. I just really loved it. So I went home and I made it out of fabric, sort of my rendition of it. So because I just couldn't get it out of my mind until I did something. And I wasn't going to try to paint it, that's for sure, to look like hers. So just a quick side note about this. When we received a big donation from the House family in their house, the house, and that's what the painting looked like when we got it. It was in the closet in the back, looking all wrinkly and dark, and then it was restored. Was it restored by the Miller?
Carrie Miller.
Carrie Miller, to look as beautiful as it looks today. So another Cora Bliss. And here's her 3 sailboats. So where do you think she is when she's painting this? So probably very on the other side, right, near the Pump House Museum, I would think.
Rail behind it.
Yep. And that one is,
Mount Baldhead Hotel.
is that in the room here? Yes, there it is, right over there. It's small. So, and the one to the left of it, the dark one to the left of it, that's also a Cora Bliss Taylor. You wouldn't think so based on all her other work. It's also a multimedia collage made with tissue paper and things like that. So she was always experimenting, and it's dark. I think maybe it's the only dark painting of hers that I've seen, except for the big, more modern one. So I'm going to finish up with Cora so I can tell you about Nat Steinberg. But in our archives, we do have some of her original letters. So imagine if you received a letter from a friend that was not only handwritten, but also had an original painting with it. And I'm going to read this letter to you just quickly. This is Christmas 1978. My very dear friends, this is a wonderful time of year that we stop and think of our friends, wishing health and happiness. I'm sure that I have something to tell you, and perhaps it will surprise you. It did me. The Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. is sponsoring a book for the first time on the history of famous women artists in the U.S. Each state will be represented, and guess what? I was chosen for Michigan. I was interviewed for over 2 hours, going over my 2 big scrapbooks. Where are those scrapbooks? That was what I thought. I was asked a lot of questions too. I was told not to expect the book to be out too soon because it will take some time. It's something that can't be bought for money, but talent. I only hope I am worthy of it. Lots of love, your teacher and friend, Cody. That was her nickname, Cody. Cora was Cody. That was her nickname, Cody. I don't feel like I know her well enough to call her Cody. You have to call her. So just a sample, I don't have time, I'm not going to read this one, but we do have this. It's also a letter encouraging someone to go on with their artwork. So that just gives you kind of a human side of her. I had to include this picture. Where does it look like she is? Where does it look?
On the bus.
She's on a bus because,
She didn't have any transportation.
well, because, yes, oh, what a good class. Because she started the interurban. She was instrumental in starting the bus that runs around today. So I can only imagine nobody would say no to her when she walked in with that hat and bag, right? Like the queen. So yes, and of course that ties into Chris's presentation last week about the interurban. At the end, she's in a, I don't want to say a nursing home, a senior adult facility. And this is an article from the Holland Sentinel in 1984, and they called her ageless. She was also a singer and a dancer, and she could do all kinds of things. But the article says, how would you like to be remembered? And she said, I'd like to be remembered as one of them. I never put myself above anybody. That's what the article says anyway. Okay, we're just going to take a breath here in between Cora and meet our friend Nat Steinberg, who some people here knew. He was, I think you said he was a sweetie. He was a lovely man, incredibly talented. And this slide here gives just a small sample of some of the awards that he won. Just look at them. Chicago Society of Etchers, Indiana Society of Etchers, Artists Guild, the Palette and Chisel Academy in Chicago, just on and on and on, all kinds, and he's in all the Who's Who's books. Just an incredibly talented artist who was born in Jerusalem and stayed in Jerusalem until he was about 7 years old. And then he and his family, I think he had one brother, moved to the Chicago area. His father worked for Kaiser Wilhelm, which is maybe why they came to the U.S. to get to a different area, a different politics, etc. So Nat was only 7 years old when they came to the U.S., and he grew up in Chicago, and then he was trained at the Art Institute. He actually met his wife there, Isabel, but she was from Douglas. That's how he got to, another way he got to, he called her that Douglas girl, and you'll get to see a picture of that. This is a very prestigious art group called the Palette and Chisel. It still exists in Chicago. They have art classes. You can go there. I want to go there. And Nat was president for a while, very active in the scene, but his main job, his day job, was that he was the illustrator, artist and illustrator for the Chicago American, which was, at that time, I think there were 3 newspapers in Chicago, the Sun-Times, the American, the Tribune. It was eventually...
Daily News?
Well, in the Daily News, okay, 4. So the American was bought by the Tribune, but he worked when it was the American mostly. So imagine every day he came to work and was had assignments of what kind of etchings that he had to do, okay? Side story though, when Nat was 5, he was still living in Jerusalem, and the children in his area had an eye disease. They were struggling with this disease, and the nuns in the area helped the children and gave them medicine or whatever, and Nat never forgot that. So at one point in his life, he painted a picture of the nuns as he remembered them and the church, and we found out that he gave this picture to the rectory across the street at St. Peter's Catholic Church. So Pam, one of our volunteers, went looking for it, and at first she asked about it, and they're like, no, we don't have anything like that. But she persisted and did find this picture, and we had it here when I gave this presentation in February, but then we had to give it back because we had just borrowed it from them. But it's a beautiful picture, very detailed, and from Nat's memory from when he was 5 years old. So he studied at the Art Institute of Chicago and immediately became an excellent artist and won all kinds of awards. And these are just some examples. They're primarily etchings, and he would do etchings because it was for a newspaper. So you had to reproduce the pictures over and over. And today, as we were gathering, do you want to hold up a couple of those etchings, Vern, the ones that are framed? So people have brought these in. This one, is that the Chicago one?
Yes. It says on the back, it says the corner of Wacker Drive and Madison.
So, and then we have, I think, one of the originals on the wall. It's much darker where Vern is standing. And then there's one more of Nat's etchings. And that one, I mean, look, when you come, look at the detail. Every one of those lines has been scratched in, which is how they do etchings. It's a little more complex than that. So these are beautiful. Thank you.
Wacker Drive, south of Washington Boulevard, May 1951.
So, but thank you. But looking at these, this one's called Sweet Adeline. You can see the singers, and then the other one kind of reminiscent of the Diego Rivera, showing how workers are actually the heroes of our society. And they are all winners. I just thought if somebody asked me what etching was or dry point, I would have a definition, but I'm gonna skip over that. Here's another, well, this is a kind of a close-up of a construction, but we have this original picture right here. So there was a magazine called the Midwest Magazine, and this is the 4th edition, January 1959, and whoops, he just did this beautiful work. So these came right from the newspaper offices here, and they were donated to us by various people. Okay, so there's that one, and then we have, this one is kind of, so I'm showing the one with the globe there. So this one is a little messy. It's got what you might consider whiteout or whatever, but it shows how they would work. So this is the Midwest, another drawing for the cover of that magazine. Don't you miss those things? Everything's online. And you'll get a chance to see those up close. So you can, I mean, there's the Midwest, and then there's the worker and the businessman, and down below you have a skyline and farms and all of that.
Really promoting the Midwest.
Yeah. So he also had to do the TV guides. You really have to be ready for those. I don't know how he kept cranking this out. And we actually have these. If you visit in archives afterwards, you can go through the notebook and see these. But who wants to guess who these people are?
Will Rogers on the left.
Will Rogers, yep. Rosemary Clooney. Wait, that's George Clooney's mom? Aunt, okay, all right, cool. Here's just another example. You all know who the man is. Bob Hope and Barbara Stanwyck. Wow, you guys are amazing. Okay, so this is I know, this is my favorite one, and we have it here. And I mean, literally, you could write a book looking at this picture, and this is Germany attacking France, so Germany's the big Hun guy, and France is the more genteel, weaker person. But couldn't you apply that to many different situations today? So, yeah, I just love this one. Beginning of fascism in the 1930s and pre-World War II. So then we also have this painting here. When Nat retired, he didn't have to keep doing those very strong messages. He could actually relax and do some watercolor. He was a very good watercolorist. Probably has 2 studies of a similar place, maybe on a vacation. And look at this. So his neighbors were the Lattice family, and Nat lived just down the street. What street is this?
On the corner of the hill.
Yeah.
White house up there.
A block away.
Red office.
But this would be the house maybe across the street or next door or whatever, the Lattice family house. So very different than Germany attacking France, okay? This is probably one of my favorite ones. Also, it's so poignant. I'm going to read the back of this one here. We actually have 3 copies of this. This one's a little stained. We have a whole art archive here, okay? But there is a little article pasted on the back. Maybe that would make you buy it. And I just wanted to read a quick. So they say here, Mr. Steinberg is true to his medium, working with a heavy line. So remember, these are etchings. He somehow achieves a rare delicacy of expression through his expert handling of light and shade. He rates among the best etchers of the country. If sincerity of purpose and love and understanding of humanity are assets in art. So, I mean, again, you could make a whole picture. Maybe this is Nat and his wife. Maybe not. Maybe it's the neighbors. Who knows? Okay. So if you attended Eric's Tuesday talk, here's Nat. He talked about the centennial, and we have one of the original pictures over here. So he was very involved. Once he retired, he moved here full time. And of course, if you have an artist in town, everybody's calling on him, right? Can you do this? Can you do that? Did you know that Nat Steinberg designed the gazebo/bandstand?
He did the picture for us. It's a fundraiser.
Okay.
That's how we raised money to build it.
So when you see the gazebo, think of him. Also, okay, the garden club ladies are like, oh, Nat, can you make a poster for our, and he did, and that's right over here, and it's so sweet, and it's very 70s, isn't it? So this was in 1974. This is interesting here. Of course, he did this, advertising the art club, but read this. The art club outdoor art shows, Saturday, July 17th and July 31st from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's kind of long, okay, I thought. But again, kind of a wonderful. And this is my kind of human interest in him. So I had seen this picture. This is Nat and his wife, Isabel, and I thought that this was their dog. But this dog's name was Ginger. And actually, we have the original picture here, an original picture of Nat and Ginger. And it's a lovely picture of the 2 of them, but not their dog. Oh. So there is a little plaque, and this plaque contains, and these are all in our archives, it contains a short article from the Commercial Record, and he talks about the fact that he would drive up here from Chicago on Friday, open the car door, and Ginger would come running to him. Ginger was the neighbor's dog. And whenever he would go for a ride, he'd open the door and call Ginger, and if Ginger wanted to, she'd jump in with him, and he would take the neighbor's children too, and ride around with these kids and this dog, and you know, I guess the neighbors really didn't mind, and he just loved Ginger, so it was kind of like his surrogate dog. And I cried when I first read the article. It's so poignant. So you'll get a chance to see that if you want to stay around. So here he is with his wife. He passed away before her, and she lived here for a long time, like 14 years or so without him, missing him very much. I want to share this little bit from the newspaper with you. So these are things from our archives. Let's see. So a little article. Steinberg gives praise in talk at the Saugatuck-Douglas Art Club. The September meeting of the Art Club was held last week at the home of Mr. and Mrs. Julius Wright on Holland Road. The highlight of the event was a talk by N.P. Steinberg, Chicago/Douglas artist and member of the club. So his talk was constructive and replete with ideas. He complimented the members of their first year's accomplishments, predicted a splendid future, and suggested that they create a scholarship fund. And he also gave them a slogan. I don't know if the art club still has this slogan, but he suggested that the slogan will be, "Let our ideals be high." So that could be for anyone. But just one more paragraph. The party opened with a cooperative buffet supper, of course, that's still going on today, which was enjoyed by all, from the southern fried chicken to the apple pie a la mode. Following the repast, Mrs. Jean Goldsmith opened the business meeting, etc., and May Heath was there. And then the article goes on to say that next Tuesday, Nat and Mrs. Steinberg will host the meeting at their home in Douglas. So, let's see, 1954 to 1955. So articles from the commercial record. Here's a list of the members of the art club. So remember, Cora Bliss Taylor was also in the art club, but her name's not on here. Maybe she didn't pay her dues yet or something. It's handwritten. And I will almost finish this by sharing this poem that Nat wrote with you. So he and his wife would send out cards. They didn't send Christmas cards because I think they were Jewish. But they sent out holiday cards, and on the cover, and you can see some of those would be etchings, artwork that he did. But Isabel sent this out after Nat passed away, and the handwriting says, "I love this poem, and I always want to share it with people I love." So Nat wrote this: "Give me love of friends, and I shall not complain of cloudy sky, of little dreams that fade and die. Give me the clasp of one firm hand, the lips that say I understand, and I shall walk on holy land. For fame and fortune burdens bring, and winter takes the rose of spring, but friendship is a godlike thing." So still gives me goosebumps. And in finishing, I just thought I'd give a quick quote from each of our friends now. Cora saying, "The whole universe," this is so her, isn't it, "is music and color. Feel it, absorb it, and most of all, be part of it." And there's a little more to it. And Nat says, "Art's produced by a heart, the imagination, the mind, as well as by a good hand." Okay, and with that, I thank you for your attention and for staying a little bit longer. And I hope that you'll come up here and look at these works and visit the archives if you have time. Thank you.